Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump says he's arranging trilateral talks aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. Trump made the claim after wrapping up a hastily arranged summit at the White House Monday with European and NATO leaders joined by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump promised the U.S. would help guarantee Ukraine's security in any future peace deal with Russia, but said European countries would lead the efforts. Trump did not clarify whether he'd send U.S. forces to Ukrainian soil if necessary. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said Berlin remained open to participating in a peacekeeping mission. He also said the next round of negotiations should come only after Russia and Ukraine agree to a ceasefire.
Let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on.
Trump countered he hopes to move more directly toward a peace deal with Russia, adding, quote, "I don't think you need a ceasefire," unquote. Trump then went on to pause the summit to call Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin later confirmed the roughly 40-minute call, calling it frank and very constructive, without stating if Putin had agreed to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Throughout the day, Trump was friendly and cordial with Zelensky, unlike in February when Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance berated the Ukrainian president before White House aides asked him to leave the White House. Trump's pressing Ukraine to exchange territory for an end to the war, something Zelensky's rejected. Meanwhile, Russia's foreign ministry called the prospect of NATO forces in Ukraine categorically unacceptable. We'll host a debate on Monday's White House summit and Russia's war in Ukraine after headlines. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are fleeing Gaza City as Israel intensifies its attacks on the Gaza Strip's largest population center ahead of a full-scale military invasion. Al Jazeera reports Israeli attacks today have killed at least 26 people, among them 8 Palestinians, killed in a strike on tents housing displaced families in Khan Yunis, and another 4 killed in an attack on tents in Deir al-Balah. 2 people were reportedly shot and killed seeking aid at a distribution site run by the notorious Israel and U.S.-backed so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Meanwhile, an airdrop of humanitarian aid over Deir al-Balah on Monday set off a scramble amongst desperately hungry people hoping for a meal. Displaced Palestinian Amin Abu Muksib came away empty-handed.
This is aerial humiliation, not airdropping. The package is filled with about 12 boxes. More than 1,000 people gather on the package. People crush each other, and it's not enough for a single family. People are fighting. There are like 10 fights on each package, and people are dying. Here you hear gunfire. There you find someone dead under the package. We can't take it anymore.
Hamas says it has agreed to a proposal for a 60-day ceasefire that would see it release 10 living hostages and the bodies of 18 dead hostages in return for hundreds of Palestinians being held in Israeli prisons. The proposal is almost identical to an earlier ceasefire plan advanced by the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. Israeli media report Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dismissed the offer and signaled he still plans to invade Gaza City and forcefully displace its entire population to the southern Gaza Strip. This after, on Sunday, close to 1 million Israelis demanded that Netanyahu not invade Gaza City and agree to a ceasefire and a release of the hostages. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Islamic State-backed fighters armed with machetes killed at least 52 civilians, including women and children, in the eastern regions of Beni and Lubero. That's according to the UN, which reports that in recent days, ISIL-backed rebels with the Allied Democratic Forces set homes on fire, tied up residents, and attacked them with machetes and hoes. ADF is among several militia groups clashing over land and resources in the mineral-rich eastern DRC. This is a local official from Beni.
This is a genocide happening in silence.
Even the international community says nothing. For 11 years already, the population has been victim of these massacres. We must speak to the authorities, international authorities, national authorities, provincial and local authorities, to restore peace. We are tired of massacres of all kinds. We are tired of burying our brothers. We are tired of this carnage.
The latest massacre comes amidst ongoing tensions between the DRC's military and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels, with both sides missing a Monday deadline to reach a final peace agreement during talks brokered by Qatar. Democratic state lawmakers returned to Texas Monday, ending a 2-week walkout that broke quorum in the state legislature and temporarily blocked Republicans from ramming through a new gerrymandered congressional map for Texas at the behest of President Trump. Republican leaders had threatened to arrest or remove from office over 50 Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas earlier this month for Illinois, New York, and other states. On Monday, Texas's Republican Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, said Democratic lawmakers would only be allowed to leave the House chambers if they agreed to be released into the custody of Texas law enforcement. Democratic State Rep Nicole Collier of Fort Worth was forced to sleep on the floor of Texas's state capitol overnight.
These officers have been assigned to our Democratic state representatives only to ensure that they get back to the Capitol to pass the racist maps and all the other legislation that they want that can harm and disenfranchise marginalized communities.
President Trump said Monday he'll soon sign an executive order banning voting by mail, calling the long-standing practice of fraud. Writing on social media, Trump also said he planned to target, quote, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, unquote. Trump's pledge came just days after he made these comments to Fox News following talks in Alaska with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
You know, Vladimir Putin said something, one of the most interesting things. He said your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting.
Constitutional scholars have rejected Trump's plans to ban mail-in ballots and voting machines by executive order as a non-starter, as state and local governments are in charge of administering elections. Newsmax has agreed to pay $67 million to settle a lawsuit brought by Dominion Voting Systems over the far-right TV channel's repeated lies about the 2020 election. Following Joe Biden's victory, Newsmax personalities and guests spread the baseless conspiracy theory that the election results were fraudulent and that Dominion's voting hardware and software were to blame. The settlement comes more than 2 years after Fox News agreed to pay Dominion more than $787 million to settle a similar case, so they didn't have to go to court. 2 more Republican governors have announced they're dispatching National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. to assist President Trump's federal takeover of law enforcement in the nation's capital. The additional forces from Mississippi and Louisiana bring the total number of National Guard troops deployed to D.C. to over 1,800. Vermont's Republican Governor Phil Scott has declined a federal request to send his state's National Guard soldiers. Meanwhile, Reuters reports the White House has dispatched social media teams alongside FBI agents executing arrest warrants to generate videos promoting Trump's crackdown on D.C. The practice violates long-standing Justice Department norms against politicizing criminal investigations. The social media teams filmed and edited a video showing the arrest of Sean Charles Dunn, a Justice Department employee who was fired and charged with assault after he shouted fascists at federal agents and hurled a Subway sandwich at one of them. A video of Dunn's arrest posted on X has garnered 2.4 million views. Trump's hand-picked interim U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C., former Fox News personality Jeanine Pirro, celebrated Dunn's arrest.
And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer, and we're going to back the police to the hilt.
In California, hundreds of people gathered for a vigil Friday demanding justice for 52-year-old Carlos Roberto Montoya, an immigrant from Guatemala, who was struck and killed on the freeway as he tried to escape federal immigration agents during a raid at a Home Depot in Monrovia. Montoya has lived in the United States for 3 years and was a day laborer. He has 4 daughters and grandchildren. His death comes as federal immigration raids have increasingly targeted immigrant workers, with activists condemning companies like Home Depot over their complicity. And the union representing thousands of striking Air Canada flight attendants announced early Tuesday morning it had reached a tentative contract deal with the airline, ending a days-long walkout. The agreement must still be approved by the 10,000 flight attendants who walked off the job Saturday demanding higher wages. The workers defied government-issued orders, deeming their strike illegal, risking fines and even possible jail time. This is Mark Hancock, president of the Canadian Union of Public Employees, speaking Monday in Ontario.
We're going to stay strong. We're going to stay committed to making sure that those workers can do the job that they love doing and actually be able to afford a roof over their heads, to afford caring for their families. And if it means folks like me going to jail, then so be it. If it means our union being fined, then so be it.
The tentative deal comes after about 8 months of negotiations. Air Canada is Canada's largest airline. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.